Today we're going to talk about something very important. Well, it's something that is vital to each and every human being on this particular planet, in this particular dimension, in this particular reality. We're going to talk about what is on the other side. What is in the afterlife? What happens when you leave? Now, the first kind of contention is, how does anybody really know, given the fact that you can't go to the other side with a camera? Not yet. You can't go with a camera. In fact, you can't even go with your physical body. So how do you bring back evidence or the truth to explain that? People have talked about what happens. They've had a near-death experience and they remember certain things. I've had a number of near-death experiences, as well as I have remembered things, just because I have spent 14, 15 years now researching into this stuff and paying particular attention to the spirit world, to other dimensions, to other beings from other dimensions and other worlds. I mean, this stuff has been my fascination for over 10 years specifically, but I've always been fascinated with this alternative esoteric knowledge. And what's interesting is also when you study shamanism, when you study magic, when you do it properly, you have to go to the other side. You actually have to go to the other side. In many cases, the magician goes through a kind of a death ritual, not specifically in a material plane, but because the magician operates on multiple dimensions, there are death rituals. Let's call them a ritual. Let's call it an experience that a particular soul, a spirit, dies on a particular dimension, and that awakens a spirit or soul on a higher dimension. And that higher spirit embodies the person. So the act of, this is why not everybody could be a magician or study shamanism, because you have to have this ability to go to the higher level, and by going to the higher level, you have to experience death at a lower level. It can be very traumatic, and if you're not a magician, you basically don't come back. So on the magical level, I have had to experience this going to the other side. Magic is like that. Magicians, they border the two worlds, the world of the living and the world of the non-living. Or as I say, the world of, the synthetic world and the digital domain. So it's a digital domain, and then there's the holographic domain. And the magician straddles both worlds. They can cross both worlds. Now, the digital domain is the domain of the afterlife. That is the duat. The ancient Egyptians talk about the duat. The pharaohs had spells for them to cross into the afterlife safely, which is magic. They had magical spells to protect them so that they can cross into the next world. And they can also enter into this world using spells, using magic. So, without any further delay, from that perspective, I would like to share with you what things are in the afterlife, what things are on the other side. And this is kind of the first discussion I've had of this and recorded. I realize it comes with a lot of, maybe a lot of weight and a lot of beliefs. Let's push our beliefs aside. I have no particular belief except of experience. This is what I experience. I don't have a particular indoctrinated faith. But I have my spirituality, my own spiritual system based on my experiences. It is a spiritual system. It's just not an organized one per se. And it's well documented. It's well documented in my books. If you want to see where I get my information from, I document, the most pertinent, relevant information. And I've discussed a lot of this in my videos. So the other side. The other side is interesting because this is why it's interesting. There is another side. I think most people agree there is another side, whether you call it the afterlife, whether you call it the kingdom, whether you call it the duat, whether you call it the spirit world. Most people believe there is something beyond the physical reality. And that alone gives somebody comfort. That gives a lot of comfort to know that this is not the end. At some point, the physical life ends. And then the spirit carries on, the soul. That's another discussion. Do you have a spirit? Do you have a soul? Let's just say your spirit, your digital, I call it the digital self, goes on to the other side. The other side goes into the technological reality, goes into the digital domain. Like the computer, you go in the computer and you become digitized. And you exist, you don't have the physical body anymore. You exist as a digital person or a spirit. A digital person is like a piece of software. Now, we're still using the basic terms we have today, but we have to think this is a much more advanced. I always have to say it's a much more advanced system. Because it's not the level of technology we have, it's a more advanced level of technology. So there are more advanced things that we won't discuss that are prevalent, and we will get to it at some point, right? So you have this digital self, which inhabits your body, but when the body goes, the digital self returns to the source. The computer, the main computer, the computer that runs this whole operation. Now, as a digital person, you're basically, you're perfect as you were encoded. You're perfect. You have necessarily no defect. You have no pain. There's no pain. You also have no memory, because memory exists with the body. With your body, you exist. These are your memories, right? You're married, you have kids, you have a job, you have a certain career, you look a certain way, you like a certain car, you have certain addictions. When you go and you go to the other side, all of those memories are gone. They can be retrieved, but they're no longer important to you. So the troubles of the life vanish. They're available, right? It's always available, but why would you hang on to that? Why would you hang on to, right? And what you take with you are the lessons, the learning, and that's incorporated into your digital self. Your program is upgraded. Your program, once you go on the other side now, you bring with you that knowledge. Did you pass the tests? Did you accomplish your missions? Did you fulfill your incarnation contracts? All of that stuff that is not important to anybody is relevant when you go to the other side. Now, a lot of the basic stuff people will do, right? You raise a family, you work a certain career, you do certain things, you do some charity and some volunteer work. All of that stuff basically covers most, all the basic stuff. For some people, they have more advanced missions and jobs. And those will be, those are basically, there's that review. You get reviewed. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? In a lot of the cases that, when I've studied this, in a lot of the cases, because again, I've had near-death experiences and I've been to the other side. I've been attacked, and I've been, technically put to the other side. And the people, at some times they would say, listen, you're not ready to go yet, and they send you back. And other times you get a life review. Life review says, well, he's done this, he's done that, he hasn't done these things, got to go back. So what I'm saying is that this system is not stupid. This system does not operate by accident, by coincidence. Although we can't explain the afterlife because we can't go there and study it properly, and the people who come back, they understand, they have intuition, or they become spiritual. They talk about angels and stuff. But we don't really have a fact-based understanding. But in my view, it's not an accident. So that when someone goes, it's not an accident. Now, some people can go too early. Let's say they commit suicide because they were influenced. So they didn't do what they were supposed to do, and they commit suicide, and then they go. Well, that spirit can't really go anywhere because they're not done, so they have to come back. You have to come back. You might live your whole life avoiding certain things, living in ignorance, afraid, and then when you go, you didn't do what you're supposed to do, you didn't you didn't learn what you're supposed to learn, you'll come back, you will reincarnate. So we've talked about this before, that we are in this reincarnation prison because a lot of people are not doing what they're supposed to do because of the way the system is set up, and then they come back. And a lot of the times, we have difficulty having these kinds of discussions because they're rooted in beliefs, and people want evidence and video footage and a documentary film. So what happens is we haven't incorporated the afterlife as a human principle rather than a spiritual or religious principle. It's not a spiritual or religious principle because every person here is subject to the other side. Not just Christians and Buddhists and Jews. Everybody, every living person is subject to this technological principle. When there's an expiration, when you exit this reality, you enter this one. It doesn't matter your belief. That's just the programming, right? That's just your programming. That's dependent on your digital self. You might, it depends on the level of understanding you have. It depends on your level of spirituality, but it has nothing to do with the system. The system itself is agnostic. The system doesn't believe in God. The system is run by some technological God, some technological being, AI, some all-knowing Father. The all-knowing Father is like, DNA contains everything. DNA is software. We know that here. DNA is software. But it's also a kind of a hardware. It's a software hardware that you take with you and you become this hardware software being, a DNA, digital DNA representation of who you are. And because you are made of this software hardware combination, that means the creator is a technological being. The creator is some kind of DNA manufacturer, right? Some kind of DNA printer, right? But it's very advanced. So when you go to the other side, you appear and you're welcome by these technological beings. They know when you exit. They know when you come through that door, right? And you're welcome. Just like you take a plane, right? Everybody on the plane, when the plane lands, right? You go to the gate. So we know how many people are on the plane. It might have 57 people. It might have 300 people. That's documented. It's documented how many people are on that plane. It's documented who's flying the plane. Who are the flight attendants? What they're eating. How long is the flight? So when you cross over, let's just use that analogy, that when you cross over, it's like you're taking a flight to the other side. And then you land. Because you often go with groups, right? At any one time, there's lots of people expiring all over the world. There's going to be 300 people in one day expiring. They all go to the other side. So let's stick with that analogy. The plane crosses the other side. It lands. We know the plane has landed. Air traffic controllers know the plane has landed. They choose a gate of entry. And you go to that gate. Right? Now you're a digital self. The body is gone. Life is finished. You're in a digital domain. So time doesn't exist. Physics don't really exist so much. You go to the gate. We know who's on that plane. We know where they're seated. We know what kind of life they've lived. We know their spiritual knowledge. We know their awareness. We know what character they played in reality. They disembark and they're greeted by the people on the other side, which are technological beings. Call them angels, call them technological beings, call them digital people. Let's try to massage the terms a little bit. I like digital people better, or technological people, or robots. How about that? What if they're like robots? So they welcome these recently deceased. Some of them are confused. Some of them are excited. Depends on how they passed. Depends if they're ready, right? So they disembark from this craft and they're taken through this airport. And the airport will have different processing, right? When you go to an airport, there's there's the international, and there's people with a visa, and there's people with citizenship, and there's a permanent resident card, and there's a handicapped aisle, and there are people with special circumstances, children without parents. We have waiting areas. People have to be processed, right? Same thing. On the other side, you get processed according to who you are, what you've done, what you came here to do, your spiritual knowledge. Some people on that plane might be going back and forth, right? Like the pilot goes back and forth between worlds, right? Let's say the pilot is a magician. The magician can go back and forth between the real world and the digital world because they're trained. Most people can't do that, right? Most people can't fly a plane, not without it crashing. So you get processed. Now, again, once you become your digital self, there's no pain because the body's gone. There's no memory because now you're in a whole different reality, right? It's like you go to a different country, you forget about home. You forget about your family. You forget about your problems. You've taken yourself out. Now, this is even a more extreme way of getting away from it all. So you forget stuff. You forget all that. It's gone. I don't even remember. You don't even want to remember because that's gone or going. So you have there's no pain. You're with loving, caring people who know what they're doing, and you have no memory, and you have no physical body. Your only concern now is whether you've done what you're supposed to do, which is why I talk about it a lot, because it is important when you go. When you're here, it's not that important. It doesn't look important. Now, you go, you get processed, and then you will go to different areas. The person who has completed their mission and fulfilled their contract and are spiritually aware and they're graduated, they will be able to move on to a different world. And depending on their score, their grade, they will be able to choose that world. They may go to an area where they'll wait again and they'll choose their world. In some cases, those people will choose to come back to the earth because they have a choice. What do you want to do? Well, I want to go back to help people because there's a lot of people who need help. They'll come back by choice. They'll come back to help. Now, some people, they'll just go on to the next life. The next life might mean a return, right? Just like, let's look at school, right? Grade school. After grade 1, you go to grade 2. After grade 2, you go to grade 3. After grade 3, you go to grade 4. After grade 4, sometimes it's the same school, same planet, same reality. Some people will do grades 1, 2, 3, 4 in this school, in this city, and then they'll change city, change school. It might change worlds, right? But you still have to go back. You'll have to go back and do your schooling on a planet, on a reality, in a world, whatever we want to call it. I call it a reality. But you'll come back until you finish your schooling. So you may live in this life as a man with a family, and then you might come back as a woman who wants to fly to the moon, like, depending on what you need to do, what you need to learn. So you get the people who pass on, you get the people who they're going to come back, they got to go to the next grade, right? And when you finish grade 5, everybody knows you got to go to grade 6. There's no real resistance. There's no real choice. You have to go, right? There's no real choice. I got to go to grade 6, and you got to go to grade 6. And sometimes you'll go with the same people. If you're in the same school, you'll go back to reality with the same spiritual friends, right? Now, there's no argument. There's no real, some people say, I don't want to go back to school. I don't like those people. Your parents or these digital beings will say you have to go back. Sometimes there is resistance. Sometimes spirits, digital people, they don't want to go back, or they refuse something, and then there's this argument, and they need to be re-educated or reprogrammed. So they'll be taken to a different area. And then they'll go through, in cases where there is an issue, they'll go to a place where there'll be interviews, there'll be an examination of their life. There was a movie about this a number of years ago called Defending Your Life. If you want to have a look, that'll give you some ideas. It is accurate, I think, in principle, is that some troubled spirits, they need to go through this kind of this process that what did you do right? What did you do wrong? Did you learn things? What did you miss? Can we learn it by showing you pictures of your life? Or do you have to go back, right? Like sometimes, there's a few things you missed. And so they'll show you your previous life, or they'll get your memories back, and they'll show you what you missed, where you made mistakes, who you betrayed, what you shouldn't have done, what you thought you got away with, but actually we had it recorded. You are recording it. You are recording everything. I can hide it from everybody, but whatever I see is recorded. So I can't hide it from myself. If I do this, nobody can see it, but I see it. I know. It's recorded. Everything's recorded by me, and then there's the reality itself records things. Nothing is unknown. Nothing is unknown in this reality. Everything can be known. Everything can be known. Now, sometimes it can be hidden, but in the afterlife, it becomes revealed. That knowledge, let's say you were hiding something and it comes out in an interview or through an examination, that information could be fed back to people in this world so that they can have resolution, so that they can move on, so they can have closure. Sometimes that person, if there's a problem, that person will be held until these people who they betrayed, they cross over, and then they're all brought into like a courtroom and say, this is what you did, these are the memories, here's the video, and then there's so that person is held, right? Held accountable. You're held accountable. It's just like in real life, you're held accountable. There are laws. In the digital world, there are cosmic law. There are cosmic laws. There are cosmic systems. There are judges and teachers. So there are those people who have to go through that examination process, interviews. You might be sent back for a short trip to learn something, and then you return because you're going through this there's a few things you missed. You might just go back for a short trip and go right back. And in the real world, you see somebody, young person, all of a sudden go. Or you'll see a person who never did anything all of a sudden go, right? Because it's the spirit world using the material world to teach. In some cases, to resolve your karmic debt, they might give you a choice and say, if you are willing to teach others, help others, we will consider that a payment of debt. So they'll put the spirit back into an uncompromising situation, at which point they will expire, but they have to help somebody. They have to help somebody at their expense. They might be put in an uncompromising situation, or they might be put in a situation that is just full of bluster to teach others. When the teaching is done, when the lessons are learned, they'll go back. So they will have helped the people on the earth, and they'll have paid some of their karmic debt. That's also decided at this kind of other life, afterlife airport. You also get the troubled individuals. Those troubled individuals, it's like a criminal. Sometimes a plane brings in a bunch of criminals, Con Air. They'll bring up a bunch of criminals, and they'll go to a prison, right? They'll be reallocated to a prison. Same sort of thing. That these criminal spirits, bad spirits, right? They will go to some kind of prison system. Call it purgatory, call it prison, where they'll be re-educated or reprogrammed. Time doesn't really exist, so they can be there for a long time. So not everyone's at a different level. The thing is, only you know what you're supposed to do. Only you know whether you've been good or bad. And they know. They know. They know because they know they can read you. At any point, from my experience, at any point, a person can be read like that, and those people know exactly where you are and where you should be. And if you're in the wrong place, sometimes they'll give you a nudge. Your life will change. Sometimes small things change. You redecorate, you change your appearance, you change your friends. Those are small nudges. Car accident, hospitalization, those are big nudges. That's because the other side says these people they're not learning, they're on the wrong track, or they did what they're supposed to do, we need to nudge them. Those are nudges, right? The more spiritually aware you become, you realize those are nudges, and you accept change, you embrace change. The less spiritually aware you are, you're afraid of change, you get angry. You know someone's not spiritually aware, they get angry. My life is cursed, and only bad things happen to me, and I'm so angry. That's a spiritually unaware person. A spiritually aware person is, I was nudged. I'm being asked to move forward. There's something I need to change. This pattern is repeating. I better change it. Oh, look. You lost your job. Your girlfriend leaves you, right? Or sometimes, there's a breakup. To get you moving forward, there's a breakup. Your boyfriend has an affair. Oh, okay. I didn't realize he was a bad person. Now I realize it. Thank you. I get to move on. Otherwise, you would have been trapped. So someone nudged. You've been nudged. You say thank you. There is a power to say thank you. Thank you. When it doesn't always look good. Especially the transition looks really ugly. When you're making change or being forced into something, bad things happen. But try to be appreciative and say thank you. Because afterwards, in the years later, you'll say, that helped me. That was a good thing that happened, even though it was terrible, right? Again, that's coming from the other side. So before you die, right? Death is a final thing. Before you do that, they're going to be helping you. They're going to be nudging you so that you don't leave prematurely. When you do go, then it's your time, right? We don't know all the particulars. I don't know all the particulars, right? I don't know. There's karmic debt and there's previous lives and incarnation contract. Who knows all this 7 billion things, right? So you have to trust, in my view, you have to trust the other side, the technicians. I call them the cosmic technicians. I have a video on that, cosmic technicians. I trust the cosmic technicians, and in many cases I try to work with them. My life has not been easy. Let's just make it clear. My life has not been easy. There's always a new challenge. And the bigger the challenge, the more confusing it looks. So I try to work with them, and they also trust me that I will do my best to understand things and to move forward. And if I'm not moving forward, if I'm stuck in something, if I'm stuck on something and I don't want to let it go, they might arrange a situation where I get to see, oh, I shouldn't be pursuing that. Yeah, because now I'm onto something else. There's something better, right? There's something better. Yeah, maybe being materialistic is not the thing anymore. Maybe love is important, right? You don't know what it is, but when you get attached to something, you won't let that go. Some people, they just won't let something go, right? I like that. I need to be famous thing. I need to be famous, and let it go. Move on. There's more to life than fame. A lot more. I think we'll need to do more talks about this. The other side, a short venture into the afterlife.